everyone, and welcome to Metagame Mastery, where it's not just about what the card does, but how it impacts the game. Guilds of Ravnica preview season is upon us, and today we got to see the new Lazav, as well as a ton of amazing cards that, without a doubt, make Dimir the most powerful guild to play in Limited. If you enjoy this content, click that subscribe button so you get access to all our latest videos. And if you're super stoked about drafting up some Guilds of Ravnica, check out our Amazon affiliate link in the description below where you can pre-order your booster box. Without further ado, big time! Go time! Let's go! First up, we have a preview brought to us by the professor at Tolarian Community College. It's Lazav, the Multifarious. 2 CMC, a blue and a black for a 1/3 legendary shapeshifter. When he enters the battlefield, surveil 1. You can also pay X, and he becomes a copy of target creature card in your graveyard with converted mana cost X, except his name stays the same, he's legendary, and he gains this ability. So, this card is absolutely bonkers. It's an absolute combo engine. It does go infinite in Commander. I would refer you to the professor's preview video where he actually has a EDH deck tech already set up for this. That's awesome. Mission briefing is 2 CMC, blue for an instant. Surveil 2, then choose an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. And I dub thee Millcaster. Okay, so the obvious comparison is to Snapcaster Mage. This isn't quite as good as Snapcaster Mage for a lot of reasons, but it does have certain advantages. I'm going to just go over a couple of those distinctions real quick here. First and foremost, this allows you to mill into an option. With Surveil 2, it lets you dig, not only getting virtual card advantage that way, but you can populate your graveyard with potentially a better option. Another great thing about this is you don't have to announce the target upon casting. So your opponent can't selectively nick something out of your graveyard with, say, a Scavenging Ooze, and make this fizzle the way that they can with Snapcaster Mage. So that's actually pretty sweet as well. Overall, I feel like this is a really solid card and will be good not just in Dimir, not just in Izzet, but it'll also be really solid in Standard as well. Nightveil Predator is 4 CMC, blue, black for a 3/3 vampire with, get this, flying, death touch, and hexproof. Boom! This is it. This is officially the mythic uncommon of the set. This is so pushed, it's ridiculous. You're getting a 3/3 flyer for 4 with death touch and hexproof. Ugh. This is going to be an absolute windmill slam every time you see it. So good in Limited. Doom Whisperer is 5 CMC, 3 colorless, black for a 6/6 Nightmare Demon with flying and trample. You can pay 2 life to surveil 2. Holy crap! This is a ridiculously pushed card. First of all, you're getting a 6/6 with 2 keywords for 5 and 0 downside. And then on top of that, you can surveil as much as you want. You're paying life, mind you, but it costs no mana. You could do it at instant speed. You can use it to populate your graveyard for undergrowth effects and Golgari as well. This isn't just something that you need for Dimir. This is an amazing card, especially in Limited. It's redonkulous. This is a first pickable every time you see it. Thoughtbound Phantasm is 1 blue mana for a 2/2 spirit with Defender. Whenever you surveil, put a +1/+1 counter on Thoughtbound Phantasm. As long as it has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. Oh, dang, that's value. I mean, just on the surface, right there, turn 1, you're getting a 2/2 blocker. Okay, yeah, he can only block, but he, on his own, you're paying 1 mana to trade with their 2-drops. Now, in a deck where you can assume that you're going to surveil maybe every turn, imagine this becoming a 3/3 blocker on turn 2. Imagine it becoming a 4/4 on turn 3. And then on turn 4, you're attacking in with a 5/5 that's no longer summoning sick. Not to mention, there's no limit to how many +1/+1 counters you could put on this. So if you drop this first turn, the potential for this to get ridiculously huge over time is there. This is an amazing card in limited, especially if you're building around Surveil, which is quite possibly the strongest mechanic in this set. City Watch Sphinx is 6 CMC, 5 colorless, and a blue for a 5/4 Sphinx with flying. When it dies, you surveil 2. Okay, so the obvious comparison is Horizon Scholar. Of course, Horizon Scholar, you get the scry right up front when you cast, when it enters the battlefield, right? This, you only get the surveil when it dies. But still, getting a 5/4 flyer in limited is not a bad thing. I don't think this is necessarily a super high pick. This isn't something you're going to open a pack and be like, oh, this is it, I'm done. But it's a good pick. Never Happened is 3 CMC, 2 colorless, and a black for a sorcery. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose an online card from target player's graveyard or hand and exile it. So I like this because you're not discarding the card and fueling their graveyard. You get the information as to what's in their hand. You're garnering new information, right? But at the same time, you get to choose what's the most powerful, what's the biggest threat, whether it be in their graveyard or their hand. And then you exile it. So for that reason, I think this card's better than you might think. I don't know that I would necessarily run it on turn 3. Taking turn 3 off might hurt, but this is definitely a potentially very powerful card and limited. Price of Fame is 4 CMC, 3 colorless, and black for an instant. The spell costs 2 less, though, if it targets a legendary creature. Destroy target creature. Surveil 2. So this is really good. I mean, it's unconditional instant speed removal for 4 mana, and you get virtual card advantage off of it. And then, if your opponent's playing, say, one of the guild leaders, you're nixing it for 2, which is super, super affordable. This is a really premium removal card in limited. Now, obviously, Assassin's Trophy is better and constructed. We're going to set that aside because you're not going to see as many of them in limited as you would Price of Fame. This is premium removal. Possibly first pickable in many packs. Darkblade Agent is 3 CMC, 1 colorless, blue and a black for a 2/3 human assassin. As long as you surveilled this turn, he gets Death Touch, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So this is a build around card for Surveil that becomes sort of a Shadow Mage Infiltrator. Shadow Mage Infiltrator is redonkulous, and this is effectively the same cost as well. I like this card a lot. I think this card is really powerful, and it's at common. I would draft 7 of these. Like, this is a legitimately very good card. Conclave Guildmage is 2 CMC, green and white for a 2/2 Elf Cleric. You can pay a green. Creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. You can pay 5 colorless, a white, tap it. Create a 2/2 green and white Elf Knight creature token with vigilance. Okay, so this is a pretty good mana dump late game, and the ability for you to pay 1 green and tap it to give trample to all of your creatures, that's a pretty far-reaching ability. This is better than a serviceable bear in limited. Legion Guildmage is 2 CMC, 1 red, 1 white for a 2/2 human wizard. You can pay 5 colorless and red, tap it. It deals 3 damage to each opponent, or you can pay 2 colorless and a white, tap it, tap another target creature. So, much like the other guild mages, this is a bear. It's fine curve filler. Also, you can use this as kind of an overcosted pseudo removal, allowing you to tap down your opponent's best creature if you have the extra mana. And then late game, if say the board stabilizes and you're not able to attack profitably with your mentor creatures, you can use this to potentially finish your opponent off with some direct damage. So it's fine. It's definitely not the best of the guild mages, but it'll do its job. League Guildmage is 2 CMC, a blue and a red for a 2/2 human wizard. You can pay 3 colorless and a blue to tap it to draw a card. You could also pay X red, tap it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control with converted mana cost X. You may choose new targets for the copy. So that's really solid. Late game, you could pay 4, dump some extra mana that you have into this to fuel your hand. But it also gives you the potential in decks where you're trying to storm off, where you can get extra copies of card draw spells, extra copies of removal spells, extra copies of interesting spells for only 1 red mana plus, the cost of that actual spell, especially if you're playing like really efficient spells that cost 1, 2, even 3 mana. This is very worthwhile. This isn't the most outright powerful mage, but it's gonna be a lot of fun in those storm style decks. Erratic Cyclops is 4 CMC, 3 colorless, and a red for 0/8 Cyclops Shaman with trample. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it gets plus X plus O until end of turn, where X is the spell's converted mana cost. So this is a card that rewards you for storming off. You're going to have 8 toughness on the board. It's all about dealing damage based off of how many instants and sorceries you pile up over the course of a turn. That's what makes this card potentially really bonkers. Golgari Raiders is 4 CMC, 3 colorless, and a green for a 0/0 warrior with haste. It also has Undergrowth and enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature card in your graveyard. So this card has the outside chance of just surprising your opponent and finishing them off out of nowhere, right? Especially if you're in an Undergrowth build around strategy. It doesn't have trample, so it can get chump blocked. And it's pretty high variance. I mean, you cannot just play this card on turn 4. You have to have your graveyard populated. And for those reasons, I'm going to say that this is actually worse than it looks. Lava Coil is 2 CMC, 1 colorless and a red for a sorcery. It deals 4 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Okay, so Magma Spray, this is not, right? Because it's not an instant. And for that reason alone, I'm not sure that this is going to be viable in standard. In limited, though, this is amazing. Snatch this up right away. 2 mana to nix any mid-sized creature or less off the board and exile it so that they can't do graveyard shenanigans is really, really solid. Glowspore Shaman is 2 CMC, black and a green for a 3/1 Elf Shaman. When it enters the battlefield, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. You may put a land card from your graveyard on top of your library. So we've got a little self-mill going here. This is solid, being a 3/1 for 2 allows you to put pressure on the board. It will probably trade pretty early on, but in doing so, you populate your graveyard even more. So this plays really well with the undergrowth mechanic, and at the same time, you get sort of some pseudo mana fixing, allowing you to ensure that you're going to hit your land drop on turn 3 as well. Integrity and intervention. Integrity is 1 Boros, which is either a red or a white. For an instant, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Now, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, oh, it's a combat trick. It's so much more than that. And bear with me while I explain. Integrity can be used as a combat trick, but in Boros, when, say, you have a mentor chain that isn't going to go off anymore. Your biggest creature pumped your second biggest creature, and now they're tied, and you're just not going to get the same kind of value off of them. You can use Integrity to pump up that second biggest creature and then attack in, allowing you to chain off on all of your creatures. So the hidden tech on this is how it interacts with a whole board of mentor creatures. Intervention is 4 CMC, 2 colorless, red and a white. For an instant, it deals 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. So it's an overcosted Lightning Helix. In limited, that's still good. Like, I would take that any day, just having that versatility. But when you combine it with Integrity, the utility it has to keep you from losing tempo on any missed step with Mentor, this is actually going to be a vital part of the Boros archetype. Invert and Invent. Invert is 1 Izzet, which is either a blue or a red. For an instant, switch the power and toughness of up to 2 target creatures. So this is going to be a really fun combat trick with the potential to combo somewhere down the line, really messing with those Boros creatures with really high power, really low toughness. It's also a way for you to potentially save those creatures from getting nixed off the board. Whereas we have Invent, which is 6 CMC, 4 colorless, a blue and a red. For an instant, search your library for an instant and or sorcery card, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So this is great for storming off next turn. That said, in the Izzet Spells Matter deck, that's a solid option. And on top of that, this is going to play really well in Mizzix, giving you card advantage and tutors for you to storm off in EDH. Well, that's it for today. If you enjoyed this content, click that subscribe button so you get access to all our latest videos. And if you're super stoked about drafting your Guilds of Ravnica, check out our Amazon affiliate link in the description below where you can pre-order your Guilds of Ravnica booster box. This has been Metagame Mastery. Peace!